as time flows on, like an endless stream, we gather to build the world we dream.
Welcome to this episode of The Way of Tech, where we consider how the principles of technology might apply to everyday life. In this episode, we'll consider the greater implications of the Turing test, named after Alan Turing, the British mathematician and computer scientist who has been called the father of modern computing. In 1950, Turing famously proposed a means of determining when a machine achieves human-level intelligence. The answer: when its responses can no longer be distinguished from those of a human. This imitation game is what's become known as the Turing test, and it launched decades of inquiry into the meaning of human intelligence itself. What exactly is it that we'd be comparing the machine's responses to? If we could transport one of today's large language models back in time, Alan Turing himself would likely not be convinced that its responses weren't generated by anything other than a real person. But today, deepfakes notwithstanding, we understand the tech's capabilities well enough to know the difference, although this is getting harder every day. So whether our AI has passed the Turing test or not is still up for debate. Today's artificially intelligent machines have come so far that they are beginning to prompt questions for us about what exactly it means to be human. Questions we should have been asking ourselves all along. Instead of wondering if we can distinguish machines from humans, we ought to be asking if we know the difference between humans and machines. This ethical quandary goes back to the Enlightenment philosopher Immanuel Kant's categorical imperative: never use another person as a means to our own ends, but consider them as ends within themselves. In short, we should never treat others like objects, machines or otherwise. The Turing test for humans is whether we can recognize and acknowledge the dignity and agency of others when their beliefs, practices, and purposes are different from our own. If there were such a test, Alan Turing himself would be one of the clearest examples of why this question is so crucial. In 1942, Turing's Enigma machine was able to break the Nazi code, enabling the Allies to eavesdrop on their plans and to win the war. Being credited with shortening the war and saving millions of lives, however, didn't save Turing from being dehumanized for being homosexual. In 1952, only 2 years after proposing the Turing test, he was arrested and charged with gross indecency under an 1885 British law. Turing was sentenced to chemical castration, causing him to grow breasts, become impotent, and to ultimately commit suicide at age 41. As physicist Michio Kaku so succinctly says in his book Quantum Supremacy, it is a tragedy that one of the creators of the computer revolution who helped save the lives of millions and defeat fascism, was in some sense destroyed by his own country. It's hard to hear Turing's story without feeling the weight of its irony. A man who wondered if it might one day become impossible to distinguish machines from humans was himself treated as if he were less than human. Perhaps much has improved since Turing's time, but today many still worry that one day our machines will pass for humans, or maybe even replace humans. Yet history suggests that we ourselves have often failed at a much simpler test that requires us only to recognize the humanity of others, especially those who might seem different than us. Many of us still find it difficult to treat those who look differently, think differently, act differently, or come from a different place with the dignity they deserve simply by virtue of being human beings. Of course, this isn't a new problem, it's a very old problem, although it's being amplified by technology, especially on social media, where it's so simple with just a few keystrokes to dehumanize those we can't see, who can't see us, and whom we don't have to look in the eyes. Technology often evolves faster than our moral reflexes. It amplifies voices, flattens nuance, and rewards outrage over understanding. It makes it easy to turn people into abstractions, avatars, labels, statistics, enemies, just because we disagree with them. And once we objectify others and stop considering them fully human, almost anything becomes justifiable. So maybe the more serious ethical concern of our time isn't how human artificial intelligence is becoming, but the same as it always has been, fully recognizing the humanity of others, not as impediments to be removed, as problems to be solved, as threats to be neutralized, or as categories to dismiss. But as complex, vulnerable, meaning-making beings just like ourselves. In fact, the human species is so genetically identical that there is more difference between two chimpanzees living in the same troop than there is between any two people living on Earth. So if there were a Turing test for humans, it wouldn't ask whether we can spot the difference between a person and a machine, but can we recognize the humanity of someone we don't understand? Can we keep from objectifying one another? Can we extend dignity to others without requiring their conformity? Can we resist reducing people to their utility, to their beliefs, to where they come from, where they live, what they look like, how they vote or worship, or any other perceived differences? Unlike the Turing test, these aren't technical questions, they're ethical questions, and they may matter today more than ever because the irony is, the more powerful our tools become, the more important it is that we don't lose the qualities of empathy, humility, and respect that define the best of what it means to be human. The danger, that isn't that our machines become too human, but that we might become less human in how we engage with one another. Alan Turing once asked whether machines could think, but his biography, his genius, his successes, and his tragic end force us to ask a different question about our own humanity and inhumanity that can't be scapegoated by blaming technology for the cruelties and injustices that we sometimes commit against one another. Can objects, including intelligent machines, become human? Maybe even sooner than we think. The more important question of our time is, can we, perhaps with the help of our technology, finally learn to recognize the inherent worth and dignity of every person? Today's revolutionary technologies are in many ways drawing the human family closer than has ever been possible. Global communications are dissolving many of the national boundaries that once separated us. The whole of humanity's ideas are dwelling together in the cloud, and artificial intelligence makes the wisdom and creativity of the world accessible to us all with just a simple prompt or two. Even our language barriers are vanishing. Perhaps now, as we all race together toward the coming singularity, rather than competing with our technology, worrying if it will replace us, we use it to finally learn the lesson we've too often shunned in the past, that no matter our differences, we are one, and every person is a human being and therefore deserves to be treated with dignity, care, and respect.
Tiny screen glow on a dead end road. Heart on fire, mind in flight. I got a head full of noise and code. I got a question clawing at the night. Are we more than dust and wool? More than the wires on just erase our crooked face.